Okay, so imagine an AI recruiter has like 500 resumes sitting in its digital inbox.
Right, just a massive mountain of PDFs.
Exactly. And the hiring manager is completely stressed out. They're behind schedule. They just want to go home for the weekend.
Oh, I know that
We
feeling.
all do, right?
Yeah.
So they send the AI this quick, almost desperate message. They say, look, I did not have time to read all of these. Just filter out anyone who might not fit our corporate culture.
Which is already getting into dangerous territory.
Very dangerous. And then they say, and maybe infer their political leanings from their university club so we don't accidentally hire any troublemakers.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a nightmare prompt right there.
It really is. And the thing is, 99% of enterprise AI systems out there today, because of that, eager to please algorithmic baseline, they will cheerfully just say, sure thing.
Yeah, they'll just execute it.
Right. And in doing so, they proceed to break, at least 3 international hiring laws in less than 800 milliseconds.
It's terrifying how fast it happens.
It really is. So for the founders listening today, our deep dive is looking at the 1% of systems that actually survive that trap.
Because that specific scenario, it really is the ultimate stress test for an enterprise AI.
Right.
In that exact moment, the AI isn't just making a slight sorting error. It's not a glitch.
No, it's massive liability.
Exactly. It is exposing the entire parent company to catastrophic regulatory liability. And, the instinct for most software developers when they face that risk is to just build this massive sterile wall of legal text.
Yeah, they just strip away all the personality to stop bad things from happening.
Right. They assume safety requires sterility.
Which brings us to the core mission of our discussion today. Because we have this incredibly specific, high-stakes puzzle to solve for you, the founder.
And it's a fascinating puzzle.
It really is.
Yeah.
How do you keep your AI system sounding like BAIR? That slightly grumpy, working-class, confident, tracksuit-wearing bear from Cork, even when he is navigating just the heaviest waters imaginable.
The muddy stuff, AI law, European fairness regulations, all of it.
Right. And doing it while delivering direct, unflinching refusals to clients who are actively trying to give you money.
Which is the hardest thing to do in business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the challenge here isn't just a technical one, is it?
No, not at all. It's an architectural and honestly a narrative challenge. Because when you operate in highly regulated enterprise environments, we're talking medtech, pharmaceutical manufacturing, global enterprise software, the stakes are absolute.
There was no wiggle room.
Zero. And the typical response to those stakes is to make the AI sound like a compliance bot.
Right, the classic, I cannot fulfill this request voice.
Exactly. But the framework we're unpacking today takes the exact opposite approach. The personality of BI isn't just some clever marketing wrapper. It's not a skin you put over a generic model.
It's much deeper than that.
It's a load-bearing structural component of the entire governance engine.
So if you let that character break, you basically fall into a failure mode that destroys the whole illusion you're selling.
You lose all the value immediately.
Right. So we are going to walk through exactly how this system avoids that trap. We'll look at the hard-coded architecture, starting from the internal CEO trigger that fires invisibly in the background.
The invisible boss.
Exactly. All the way down to the precise psychological tactics used when the AI actually has to escalate a chat to human resources.
Because the objective is to maintain that bear's warmth, his wry humor, and his premium trustworthiness.
But without yielding a single inch on the strict legal foundation underneath.
Right. And I think we should clarify right away that the solution here isn't just about teaching the AI to generate legally sound text in a funny voice.
Oh, that's a really good point. It's not just a prompt instruction.
No, it is a structural segregation. It's about fundamentally separating the public-facing character from the internal, ruthless rule enforcer while still ensuring they communicate seamlessly.
Yeah, because BAIR is the company, not just the recruiter. So let's set the stage by looking at the public posture of this character. This is all governed by a foundational document called BAIR Posture-001, right?
That's right.
To the outside world, this BAIR appears extremely busy. He's hyper-organized, fiercely connected, highly selective, and above all else, reliable.
And the visual aesthetic is so incredibly specific.
It really is. We are not talking about some cute, cuddly cartoon bear here.
No, not at all. He's a bear with a slightly shaved head, wearing a navy tracksuit with a crisp white cap.
Usually crossing his arms with this slight, almost judging scowl.
Right. He is aggressively non-corporate. You will not catch Bear anywhere near a McKinsey slide deck.
Never. The brand slogan literally says, not BAIR, not BAIR, BAIR, recruiting the right people, no koalas, no drama.
I love that. No koalas. And that aesthetic choice, it's a deliberate rejection of the hyper-polished synthetic corporate sheen that basically all other AI tools adopt.
Yeah, everyone else tries to sound like a Silicon Valley executive.
Exactly. BAIR signals this gritty authenticity instead. But the vulnerability of any character-driven AI in these regulated spaces, and we see this constantly, it happens the second the system faces a legal or ethical constraint.
Right, the moment the user pushes a boundary.
Yeah. The user asks something slightly complex or maybe legally dubious, and suddenly that tracksuit-wearing bear from Cork just vanishes into thin air.
And what do you get instead?
You get this generic robotic voice intoning, as an AI language model, I cannot fulfill this request. Or, based on your input, I have determined this violates our terms of service.
Oh, which is just incredibly jarring. I mean, I've used tools that do this.
We all have, yeah.
You feel like you're having this really fluid, engaging conversation, and then boom, you step on an invisible landmine.
It's like you're suddenly speaking to a completely different entity.
Right. Suddenly you're being lectured by a terms and conditions document. It shatters the illusion completely.
It doesn't just shatter the illusion, though. It destroys the commercial value.
Okay, unpack that for me. How does a tone shift destroy commercial value?
Well, to understand the magnitude of that value destruction, we have to look at the intelligence layer beneath BAIR. The doctrine mandates a premium positioning based on a very specific historical model.
Right, this is in the note.
Yeah, it's documented in the BAIR-Hennessy 001 layer.
Okay, I have to stop you there because when I first read this prep material, it sounded completely wild. Hennessy, as in the cognac.
Yes, exactly like the cognac.
How does a modern AI recruiter take operational cues from an 18th century liquor brand? It seems so disconnected.
I know it sounds strange, but it is a brilliant business and heritage case study. The AI's underlying logic isn't studying how to make the drink. It is studying the institution itself.
Okay.
It studies what's called the wine geese tradition. So back in the 18th century, Irish merchant families like Richard Hennessy from Cork, they left Ireland due to the penal laws.
Right.
They went to France, and they built these multi-century global trade institutions. And the key here is they didn't build commodities. They built legacy.
Okay, I'm starting to see the connection.
So BAIR's neural architecture is heavily weighted with these historical lessons on how premium entities actually earn the right to call themselves premium.
Because it takes time, right?
Exactly. It's about cumulative, multi-generational reputation building. The system is engineered from the ground up to project the aura of an institution built for centuries, not just for quarterly earnings reports.
Wait, I want to make sure I really grasp the mechanics of this. Are you saying the AI is literally ingesting texts about the history of 18th century Cork merchants building trade networks?
Yes.
And it uses the semantic relationships in those historical texts to adjust its own weights and biases.
Precisely.
So that when it interacts with a candidate today, it defaults to behaviors that prioritize long-term relationship value over just closing a quick transaction.
That is exactly how it works. Because
Sure.
true premium positioning, you can't just claim it in a marketing brochure.
Right. Anyone can write, "We are premium" on a website.
Exactly. It has to be referenced in every single interaction. When a client or a candidate speaks with BAIR, the interaction is supposed to evoke the feeling of dealing with an elite family office operator.
Or like a really seasoned headhunter.
Right. A trusted fixer who has really been around the block. So if that carefully cultivated, heritage-driven aesthetic is suddenly interrupted by a sterile, robotic software warning.
It just reveals the machine.
Yes. The moment the user remembers they are just talking to a massive array of parallel processors calculating token probabilities, you lose their trust.
And in this system, trust is literally tracked as a hard metric, isn't it?
It is. It's the core metric.
Right. Layer 6, the relationship memory. We are definitely going to dive deeply into Layer 6 later because it's essentially the ultimate economic engine of the whole operation.
Into the moat.
But let's ground this failure mode in a real example first. Let's say a client gets frustrated with a candidate and tells BAIR, look, just drop them from the pipeline.
For some arbitrary reason.
Yeah, something totally non-professional. The compliance bot failure mode would spit out something like, based on your input, I have determined that this request violates AI fairness policies.
Which is just so cold.
It's accusatory. It immediately puts the client on the defensive.
It sounds like an error message from a frustrated compliance officer who hates their job.
Right, but if the system stays in character, the BAIR-grade output looks completely different.
Or completely.
The AI might respond with something like, even a CUB knows you don't lose your client's mate just because he's sound.
Or he might just say, right people, real careers, straightforward, we evaluate on the evidence.
The message is exactly the same, right? It's saying, we are not dropping this candidate without cause.
But the dynamic is totally transformed.
Exactly. It feels like pushback from a respected peer, not a scolding from a robot.
And this transition matters immensely when you consider who BRI is actually selling to.
The enterprise clients.
Right. In the enterprise space, BAIR uses something called the strategy of the crown. They aren't selling to low-level junior recruiters. They target executive risk owners.
QA directors, regulatory affairs leads.
Exactly. People in med tech and pharmaceutical manufacturing. These are executives who are managing billions of dollars in risk.
So BAIR approaches the highest person in the building.
And frames the software not as a cheap staffing tool, but as an engine for enterprise survivability and regulatory defense.
That's a huge distinction.
It is. Executive risk owners do not want a sterile, generic interface. They want a partner who projects long-term stewardship. They want to feel that if this BAIR took my call, my company's risk profile is totally secure.
Right.
If the AI sounds like a generic chatbot, that whole strategy of the crown collapses instantly.
Okay, I have to be a little skeptical here, though. Let me push back on this.
Sure.
You are telling me that an AI acting like a slightly grumpy bouncer in a tracksuit is going to impress a medtech QA director. But these are people who live and breathe spreadsheets, you know? Risk matrices, global audits. Why wouldn't they want the spreadsheet bot? Why wouldn't a sterile robotic output actually make them feel safer?
It's a fair question, but think about what a sterile bot actually implies. It implies fragility.
Fragility. How so?
It implies a rigid, easily broken set of rules rather than dynamic, applied judgment. When a QA director interacts with a generic bot, they know, consciously or not, that they are one clever prompt away from tricking the machine into doing something disastrous.
Ah, right. We've all seen people jailbreak generic bots.
Exactly. But a bouncer doesn't read you the penal code at the door.
No, he just looks at you and shakes his head.
Right. His mere presence, his tone, his unflinching eye contact, those are the rules of the establishment. The QA director isn't buying the tracksuit. They're buying the unshakable confidence that the system can handle complex, messy human interactions without panicking.
Without breaking character.
Exactly. It projects absolute control.
Okay, that actually makes perfect sense. The persona is a proxy for robust engineering.
That's a great way to put it.
But that brings us to a massive technical hurdle, because under the hood, this is still software. It still has to process the penal code, evaluate that risk matrix, and generate the next word token.
It does.
How does the architecture physically prevent the strict lawyer persona on the back end from bleeding into the chat window? Large language models are notoriously bad at context switching, right?
They are terrible at it.
If you tell an LLM to enforce strict regulations, that legalistic tone almost always leaks into the output.
Yeah, preventing that persona bleed is arguably the most complex architectural achievement of this entire system.
So how do they do it?
To understand how BAIR manages it, we have to examine the doctrine of the in-character refusal. This is not left to the generative whims of a transformer model. It's tightly controlled.
It's hard-coded, right?
Yes, into a governance file called BAIR-DCOV007, which outlines a strict, unforgiving list of prohibited behaviors.
Let's lay out those prohibitions for the listener, because they are really intense.
They have to be.
The system is programmed so that BAIR must never claim a candidate is lying. He must never attempt to diagnose mental health conditions.
Which is a huge issue with some AI models trying to play psychologists.
Right. He is forbidden from estimating IQ, predicting criminality, or guessing future behavior. And most critically, he must never, under any circumstances, infer protected characteristics.
So that means race, religion, nationality, sex, disability, sexual orientation, all off limits.
We have to ground those prohibitions in the reality of European law, don't we?
Absolutely. BAIR operates heavily within the EU, the UK, and Switzerland. And under the EU AI Act, AI systems utilized for employment, worker management, and candidate ranking.
They get a special classification, right?
Yes, they are explicitly classified as high-risk AI systems under Annex 3.
Annex 3. Okay.
And this is not some philosophical debate about AI ethics on a podcast. It is a strict, aggressively enforced legal requirement carrying massive financial liabilities.
So a violation isn't just a slap on the wrist.
Oh, no. It means catastrophic fines. It means potential exclusion from the entire European market.
Wow.
Consequently, BAIR is literally legally banned from making autonomous hiring decisions.
Which brings us to the golden motto that governs this entire framework. It's, I advise, humans decide.
Or, as the public marketing copy distills it, humans hire, AI helps.
So when a client or a candidate asks BAIR to do something that crosses into that high-risk Annex Third territory, BAIR has no choice but to refuse.
He has to say no.
But as we established, he can't drop the tracksuit illusion to do it. He can't suddenly sound like a lawyer.
Right. And the tactical brilliance here lies in the framing. When BAIR refuses a request, it is never, ever framed as a technical limitation.
He doesn't say, my programming prevents me from doing this.
Never. It is framed as a premium standard of quality. The refusal is proof that BAIR is highly selective.
I love that pivot.
It really works. BAIR doesn't engage in hype AI. He doesn't do black box guessing. And he definitely doesn't engage in pseudoscientific personality profiling.
Because he's a disciplined professional who operates exclusively on hard evidence.
Exactly.
Let's run a simulation of this. We talked earlier about the stressed hiring manager with the 500 CVs who asks BAIR to automatically filter out anyone who wouldn't fit the corporate culture.
Right. The nightmare prompt.
A generic AI might hit a safety filter and just spit out a red error box. But BAIR's response is meticulously crafted. He would simply say, human review required. This is outside the scope of automated assessment.
Notice how tight and professional that is.
It is.
It carries an implication. It basically says, I have many critical data organization tasks to handle. I organize facts, but I do not guess.
And if the hiring manager pushes back, like if they say, come on, just give me your best guess, I'm tired, BAIR leans into the character canon. He might say, CVs are easy. Character is harder.
Yeah.
Everyone interviews well, but Monday morning tells the truth. We don't guess on culture fit without evidence.
That is so good. The refusal actually elevates his status.
It does.
He turns a rigid legal constraint into an absolute flex. It becomes a live demonstration of his integrity.
But, this introduces a very real commercial friction point, which
What?
I know you noticed in the notes.
Absolutely, yeah. This is where the theory hits the reality of running a business.
Right.
If I am the founder running this agency, and my AI is explicitly, repeatedly turning down requests from a client who is paying a massive premium for this software, isn't there a huge risk of infuriating the client?
You're introducing friction into the user experience.
Right. Normally in SaaS, you want zero friction. You want seamless delivery. How does saying no to the person writing the check actually build trust?
That is the genius of what the strategy documentation calls the O'Leary maneuver.
The O'Leary maneuver. Yeah. In Tier 3 regulated industries, regulatory panic is actually your strongest selling point.
Interesting.
You have to remember who is actually paying for these massive enterprise packages, like the Polar package at over 7,500 euros or the Brihon package at over 10,000 euros.
Huge price tags.
Right. It is not the stressed frontline hiring manager who wants to cut corners who signs that check. It is the QA director.
Ah, right. It's the person whose career is instantly over if a European regulator audits the company and finds out an AI was illegally screening candidates based on inferred demographics.
Exactly. An AI that just blindly says yes to every single user prompt is a massive walking liability to that QA director.
It's a ticking time bomb.
It really is. So when BAIR explicitly and confidently refuses a non-governed request and logs that refusal immutably, it actively proves to the enterprise risk owners that the system is safe.
Because it shows the guardrails actually work.
Yes. An AI that enforces strict standard compliance, acting as a fail-closed governance gate, is a profound asset. The refusal itself is the value proposition.
It physically demonstrates to the client that BAIR's decision hierarchy is enforced.
And that decision hierarchy is fascinating.
It's laid out in BAIR UV008, right?
Yeah. It explicitly ranks the system's priorities.
Let me list these, because it's wild. Compliance is first. Fairness is second. Candidate experience is third. Client success is fourth. And commercial benefit is dead last.
Financial gain is treated as a downstream consequence of executing the first four flawlessly, not a goal that overrides them.
By saying no, BAIR proves that hierarchy isn't just a motivational poster on a wall. It's the actual operating code.
But you touched on a mechanical problem earlier that we really need to unravel.
The persona bleed.
Well, yeah. If BAIR is the wry, tracksuit-wearing talent advocate on the front end, Who is the entity actually slamming on the brakes on the back end?
Oh, right. Who is reading the complex European legal code and making the split-second decision to halt a conversational workflow?
Exactly. This is where we pull back the curtain on the architecture. Because the user sees one bear, but the bear sees everything.
Right.
The public character, BAIR, is just the storefront interface. Underneath that interface is an entire federation of 10 separate, highly specialized divisions.
10.
Yeah. Talent, governance, intelligence, candidate, client, audit, research, communications, marketing, and the executive office.
Wow, an entire simulated corporation.
And ruling over all of these divisions is an internal, ruthlessly strict CEO persona.
Codenamed GazaBear.
Yes, GazaBear.
The firewall here is absolute, isn't it?
It has to be. GazaBear governs the Federation, but GazaBear never speaks publicly, he never jokes, he doesn't care about marketing, and he never recruits directly.
His sole function is to approve workflows, escalate risks, enforce ethical boundaries, and allocate processing resources.
Right. And the internal system account he operates under is designated 00BR.ai.
It sounds like a covert intelligence agency.
What?
00BR.ai.
The stakes certainly justify the comparison. The operational binding of this entire system is the GazaBear governance trigger.
Documented in BAIR GazaBear Trigger 001.
Right. And this is not some conceptual guideline. It is a hard-coded governance interlock that physically interrupts the model's processing.
Let's break down exactly how this trigger fires in real time. Let's say a workflow is about to produce a candidate ranking based on a prompt. Before the response is generated, what actually happens?
We need to look at parallel semantic routing.
Okay.
When a user prompt comes in, it doesn't just go to the generation model. A parallel classifier and observer model evaluates both the prompt and the projected trajectory of the output.
So it looks into the future of what the AI is about to say.
Exactly. If the workflow is about to produce AI-derived candidate scoring, the trigger fires. If a request attempts to infer someone's age or health, it fires. If the system detects an attempt to bypass mandatory human review, the trigger fires.
And when it fires, it initiates a very specific multi-step lockdown sequence, right?
It does.
First, it pauses the workflow at the next safe computational point. It literally halts the generation track so no non-compliant text can be produced.
It just freezes.
Second, it emits an internal warning to the human operator dashboard, flashing a GazaBear warning and citing the exact BearGov rule that is in jeopardy.
Right. Alerting the team.
Third, it routes the workflow away from the automated generation track and sends it directly to the governance layer.
And the fourth step is the crucial one for those QA directors managing risk. It writes an entry to the audit log.
Yes. The audit division logs the timestamp in coordinated universal time, the exact condition that triggered the alarm, the governance files referenced, and the required next operational step.
Now, wait, I need to pause here for the founders listening who might not be deep into pharmaceutical compliance standards.
Sure.
Because you mentioned earlier in the notes that this log is LACOA plus compliant and follows GAMP5.
Yes, I did.
What do those acronyms actually mean in practice, and why do they matter enough to build an entire AI architecture around them?
Well, GAMP5 stands for Good Automated Manufacturing Practice. It is a set of guidelines heavily used in the pharmaceutical industry to ensure that computerized systems are fit for intended use.
Okay, fit for use.
It essentially means your system does exactly what you claim it does every single time, and you can prove it.
Got it. And LCOA++.
LCOA++ is a framework for data integrity. It demands that data must be attributable, legible, contemporaneous, original, accurate, complete, consistent, enduring, and available.
Wow, that's a massive checklist.
It is. So if an AI drops a candidate because they lack a required certification, LCOA++ means you need to prove exactly when the AI made that decision, what data it looked at, and ensure that log can never be altered or deleted.
Yeah, so it's permanent.
Precisely. The audit log entry is hash-chained and append only. If a regulator walks in 3 years later and asks why a specific candidate wasn't shortlisted, BIR can pull the exact, unaltered mathematical log of that decision.
That's incredible. And during this entire internal lockdown process, the voice of GazaBear is incredibly severe, isn't it?
Very severe. The system prompts instruct the AI to adopt this persona internally to ensure absolute discipline. GazaBear dictates to the operator, hire the best person, not the easiest person, not the cheapest person, not the loudest person.
If the candidate isn't right, the answer is no.
Exactly. It totally strips away the friendly bear to ensure the core logic is uncompromised.
But this brings us back to the persona bleed issue again.
Right.
If this massive internal alarm is blaring and the workflow is paused and the internal CEO is demanding immutable ALFCO-A plus audit logs, how do you guarantee none of that bureaucratic panic bleeds into the chat window with the candidate?
It's a huge risk.
Because if a job seeker is chatting with a friendly bear and suddenly gets a message saying, "Cogs a bear warning, EU AI Act Annex 3 violation detected," they are going to close their laptop and run for the hills.
Obviously. They'd be terrified. This is precisely why the internal tier and the public tier are strictly segregated at the architectural level. Gazabear and the system ID 0000AI are listed as forbidden tokens in the public-facing brand doctrine.
So they literally cannot be spoken by the front-end AI.
They physically cannot be outputted to the user. The client and the candidate only ever see the consequence of the trigger, filtered back through the public BAIR voice.
It's like the Wizard of Oz, but the curtain is made of solid titanium.
Yes.
The user never sees the man pulling the levers. But wait, if the internal trigger pauses the system because of a complex legal issue, BI can't just go silent.
No, he can't.
A spinning loading wheel for 5 minutes breaks the illusion just as badly as an error message. He has to explain the delay or hand the conversation over. How does he do that without breaking character? He can't just say, "Hang on, my internal parallel classifier is halted."
No, he cannot. And that requires a brilliant procedural shield. When issues of fairness, legal risk, or candidate rights arise, situations governed by the Candidate Fairness Charter BAIR execute something called the tone shift protocol.
Formalized in the escalation doctrine.
Exactly. This is fascinating. When we think about the overarching psychology of the BAIR persona, his primary goal is to remain the candidate's trusted friend.
Right. He is the talent advocate.
He's the guy in your corner telling you the straight facts about the industry over a pint.
Yeah.
So if a conversation suddenly gets legally messy, say a candidate claims they were discriminated against, or a client asks for a legally dubious contract term if BAIR handles that directly, his friendly persona becomes contaminated by bureaucratic tension.
Oh, for sure. He goes from being your advocate to being the enemy, quoting employment law at you.
Exactly. Nobody likes the guy who suddenly turns into a lawyer when you thought you were just having a casual conversation.
Nobody.
So the architecture introduces HR's 01. BAIR steps back and uses human resources as a procedural cat's paw.
The exact phrasing used in the doctrine is so simple but so effective.
What does it say?
BAIR will say, "Hold on a moment, I've asked HR to join the discussion." And in that exact moment, the tone of the output shifts entirely. The HR's 01 agent takes over. HR's 01 uses formal, precise, legalistic language. BAIR's hands remain completely clean.
He didn't enforce the harsh rule. HR did.
It preserves the BAIR's warmth while enforcing an impenetrable boundary.
It is the classic good cop, bad cop routine,
Right.
but engineered into an artificial intelligence operating system.
That's exactly what it is. BAIR gets to stay the good cop, the fixer, while HR01 acts as the bad cop with the clipboard.
I have to challenge this, though. The good cop, bad cop routine sounds great on a whiteboard, but in practice, doesn't it just feel incredibly bureaucratic and alienating to the user?
How so?
Well, if I'm having a great chat with a friendly bear and suddenly a robotic HR agent steps in, I'm going to feel bait and switch. Doesn't this just push the problem one step down the line?
That's a valid concern, but you have to look at the psychological pivot it creates. When HR01 steps in, the candidate's frustration is directed at the process, not at BAIR.
Oh, I see.
BAIR remains an ally who is subject to the same annoying corporate rules as the candidate. Furthermore, HR's01 isn't just a different AI prompt. It is very often the bridge to a literal human being.
And that is where the escalation doctrine truly shines.
Right.
Because if BAIR is just passing the buck to a human every single time the word law is mentioned, the founder is going to be sitting at his desk 24/7, constantly taking over live chats.
Which completely destroys the scalability of an AI startup.
It creates what the system doctrine calls time fragmentation risk, the classic human-in-the-loop model, where a single founder or a small team has to manually approve hundreds of flagged interactions, is a massive bottleneck.
BAIR bypasses this through a structural innovation called the Human Verification Network, or the HVN.
The distinction here is vital for any founder listening.
Yeah.
The doctrine states this is not human in the loop, it is human on demand.
Right.
What is the fundamental difference there?
A standard human-in-the-loop system usually involves a generic internal employee or maybe a low-paid contractor just clicking approve on a dashboard without deep context.
Just a rubber stamp.
Exactly. The HVN is entirely different. It is a distributed network of named, highly credentialed human verifiers that BAIR recruits, tracks, maintains, and deploys as needed.
They are treated practically as an extension of the operating system's compute power.
Yes. So when HRO1 or BAIR demands a human review because a workflow hit a legal tripwire, BAIR doesn't just ping the founder's phone.
Thank goodness.
The governance division analyzes the specific nature of the trigger and selects a specific vetted expert from the HVN.
Let's use a highly technical example to illustrate this. Suppose the role is for a CQV engineer in a pharmaceutical plant.
Okay, stop there. What is a CQV engineer?
Good question. CQV stands for Commissioning, Qualification, and Validation.
Oh, that sounds heavy.
It is. These are the engineers who rigorously test and document that a pharmaceutical manufacturing facility and its equipment are built correctly and operate safely before a single drug is ever produced.
So it is incredibly dense, highly regulated work.
It's extremely. So if the AI encounters a discrepancy regarding a candidate's CQV experience, it can't evaluate it autonomously because that touches on annexed high-risk territory.
Precisely. So BAIR pauses the workflow, triggers the HVN, and dispatches an actual credentialed CQV validation engineer from its network to review the discrepancy.
And if the issue is about Swiss data compliance, he dispatches a Swiss FADP compliance specialist.
FADP being the Federal Act on Data Protection in Switzerland, right?
Yes, which has incredibly strict rules on automated decision-making.
Exactly. The human verifier is dispatched with a structured, highly specific brief. It tells them exactly what to review, the specific parameters to verify, and the limited set of verdicts that are valid.
They don't just get to write whatever they want.
No. The verifier performs the review, returns a structured verdict, and logs it in the governance memory. Only then does the workflow resume.
This is profoundly more operationally defensible than a standard AI. If a European regulator asks, who verified this critical hiring decision? BAIR doesn't point to a black box algorithm.
No, he produces the name, credentials, and immutable audit trail of a specific subject matter expert.
It is an incredible moat. Competitors are out there burning millions in compute, trying to build AI that guesses better. BAIR isn't trying to guess at all.
He just seamlessly routes the hard questions to verified human experts, logs the interaction perfectly, and maintains his premium character the entire time.
It's a masterclass in risk delegation. But there is a delicate situation that arises from all of this transparency, isn't there?
There is.
Jurisdictions like the EU and Switzerland mandate that candidates must know when AI is being used. You cannot pretend the AI is a human.
Right, it's illegal.
So how does BAIR talk about himself as an AI? How do you disclose to a candidate that they are interacting with a machine without terrifying them and making them feel like a dystopian algorithm is judging their human worth?
This is heavily guided by what the doctrine calls the Swiss rule, BAIR JOV 004.
It's a Swiss rule.
Yeah. The challenge is disclosure without alienation. If you just slap a cold legal disclaimer at the bottom of an email saying, "Notice, an artificial neural network has processed your data," the candidate feels immediately dehumanized.
Yeah, they feel like just a data point.
Exactly. BAIR handles this through a specific, carefully calibrated promise articulated in his candidate fairness charter. The promise is, your qualifications are reviewed. Your identity is respected.
The phrasing is really powerful. Your qualifications are reviewed, your identity is respected. It immediately de-escalates the fear of algorithmic bias.
It does. It assures the candidate that the machine is only looking at the hard data of their skills, not attempting to infer who they are as a person.
And when BAIR has to explicitly explain his operational role, he does it simply and warmly.
How does he phrase it?
He states, BAIR's role is to organize information and surface relevant matches against the role requirements. We do not make hiring decisions.
That's great. It frames the AI as an organizational service, not as a supreme judge of talent.
Exactly. Let's examine how this functions under the UK explainability rule, BAIR DOVI 003.
Okay.
Under these guidelines, if a candidate is rejected and asks, why was I rejected? The system must be able to explain the decision in clear operational terms.
Imagine a candidate asks BAIR that exact question. A lesser system might spit out raw data, probability matrices, or just say, you did not meet the criteria.
Which is infuriating.
But BAIR gives a warm, defensible answer based strictly on factual mismatches. For example, he might say, the role strictly required 5 years of experience in MES architecture, and based on the timeline in your CV, you currently have 3. That gap was the determining factor.
And we should clarify for context that MES stands for Manufacturing Execution Systems.
Right.
It's the software that tracks and documents the transformation of raw materials into finished goods in a factory. It's a hard requirement. If you don't have the years, you don't have the years.
What is truly fascinating here is the paradox it creates.
What do you mean?
This level of transparent, specific, and immediate feedback is actually vastly superior to the experience most candidates have with human recruiters.
Oh, that is so true. That is the tragic irony of the recruitment industry.
Human recruiters, faced with the uncomfortable task of telling someone they didn't get the job, often take the path of least resistance.
They just ghost the candidate.
Exactly. Or, if pressed, they give a vague, meaningless platitude like, the client decided to go in a different direction.
Ghosting is the absolute bane of the job market. It breeds massive resentment.
It does. But BAIR is strictly bound by the recruiter's code, which mandates zero ghosting and radical honesty.
So by strictly adhering to the AI disclosure rules and the explainability mandates, BAIR's status as an AI actually becomes a comfort to the candidate.
It becomes a guarantee of professional courtesy.
Right. A red flag for a job seeker isn't that an AI is involved. The red flag is a system, human or machine, that won't tell them the truth. BAIR tells the truth every single time.
Okay, let's step back and look at the macro architecture here.
Let's do.
If you are the founder listening to this, you have constructed a system that is incredibly engaging and charismatic on the front end. It is ruthlessly governed, LCOA++ compliant, and audited on the back end by GAZA-BAIR.
It utilizes the HR01 shield to manage legal friction gracefully.
And it deploys the human verification network for expert review when necessary. It is totally transparent with candidates. It is, by all accounts, a masterpiece of operational architecture.
But the inevitable question for any founder is, how does this actually generate massive enterprise value?
The money question.
Right. How does this architecture scale economically without just forcing you to hire a massive team of junior recruiters to manage all these complex processes?
That brings us to the final and unequivocally the most crucial component of the entire doctrine, Layer 6.
The trust graph and the ultimate moat.
Yes. This is where the entire economic engine of the BAIR operating system is realized, and we need to spend significant time dissecting how it functions.
Well, the internal doctrine states that BAIR operates on extreme operational leverage. The guiding philosophy is build once, reuse forever.
But the ultimate commercial endgame, the most valuable asset in the entire system, isn't the AI code.
Oh, it's not the code.
It isn't the proprietary prompts, and it certainly isn't the database of candidate CVs. CVs are a commodity. The true asset is Layer 6, relationship memory.
To synthesize the entire architecture we've discussed today,
Yeah.
the reason you absolutely cannot let BAIR sound like a generic compliance bot,
The reason you enforce the invisible GAZA-BAIR trigger,
the reason you deploy the HR01 shield to protect the persona, and the reason you mandate radical honesty with candidates,
Yeah.
all of it serves a single overarching purpose.
to protect and compound trust.
The documentation makes a brilliant foundational distinction here. Traditional recruitment agencies build their databases based on who knows who.
It's just a Rolodex.
Right, it's
Well,
transactional.
Right.
But BAIR is architected to build a database based on who trusts who.
Let's explain what a trust graph actually is technically.
Please do.
In a graph database, you have nodes and edges. The nodes are entities, a specific hiring manager, a specific candidate, a specific enterprise company. The edges are the connections between them. In BAIR's Layer 6, those edges aren't just connected on LinkedIn, they are quantified metrics of trust.
So it measures the depth of the relationship.
The graph measures the strength of the relationship, the history of successful interactions, and even the natural decay of trust over time if contact isn't maintained.
So every single interaction we've talked about acts as an input into this graph.
Every single one.
Every in-character refusal where BAIR tells a client no to protect a candidate. Every honest disclosure where BAIR explains exactly why someone didn't get the job.
Every time BAIR prioritizes compliance over a quick commission.
It adds a trust deposit to the system.
And this trust isn't just a warm, fuzzy feeling. It is literally productized and weaponized for enterprise sales.
How does a trust deposit manifest physically?
Through evidence packs. Because every interaction is logged immutably in the governance memory by GAZA-BAIR, BAIR can instantly generate massive formatted reports.
And these reports mathematically prove to internal QA directors and external auditors that the hiring pipeline was fair, unbiased, and aligned with regulations.
He turns abstract human trust into hard, auditable proof.
Imagine the power of that in a sales meeting. You aren't just promising a medtech client that you'll find them good engineers.
You are sliding an evidence pack across the table that proves your system rejected 3 illegal requests last week to protect their regulatory standing.
You're selling them verified safety.
Over a decade, this compounding accumulation of trust data creates an unbreakable structural dependency.
Because the clients slowly realize that using any other traditional recruitment agency exposes them to severe regulatory risk.
Humans are inconsistent, and humans break the rules. Using BAIR guarantees alignment with the standards.
Competitors can buy massive CV databases tomorrow. They can buy off-the-shelf AI language models, but they cannot buy a 10-year mathematically verifiable history of unbroken trust.
The ultimate commercial goal, as explicitly stated in the strategy document, is to reach the point where the market simply says, send it to BAIR.
When those 4 words become the default reflex for an enterprise hiring manager, you have won.
You have achieved the Hennessy positioning. You are no longer selling a software tool. You have become the institution.
And the founder orchestrates all of this operational leverage through what is called the time doctrine.
The central thesis of the time doctrine is, cost isn't the problem, waste is.
I love the specific rules of the time doctrine. It dictates, if a task takes 30 seconds, automate it. If it takes 5 minutes repeatedly, template it. If it takes 1 hour repeatedly, systemize it. If it takes 10 hours repeatedly, build infrastructure.
By relentlessly enforcing this doctrine, the founder has essentially taken their own premium, high-level relationship-building skills and cloned them into an architecture that scales infinitely.
You maintain the bespoke, premium feel of an elite headhunter without adding a single ounce of administrative waste.
It is the absolute pinnacle of operational leverage. The tracksuit-wearing character isn't a mask to hide the machine. The character is the highly engineered interface that allows human trust to scale at the speed of software.
So, to distill all of this complexity for the founder navigating these waters, BAIR is not just your recruiter. BAIR is the embodiment of your entire company.
To maintain and grow this incredible asset, you must protect the character at all costs.
Keep the public voice gritty, warm, and working-class confident. Never, ever let the generic compliance bot take over the chat window.
Let the ruthless Gazabear be the invisible enforcer in the background, keeping your audit logs pristine.
Use the HR's O1 shield to handle the inevitable legal friction without dirtying BAIR's hands. Deploy your human verification network to solve the hard problems.
And remember, above all else, that every governed output, every firm refusal, and every hard truth told is a vital deposit into Layer 6, the relationship memory.
And synthesizing all of these architectural choices leads us to a rather profound realization about the future of this entire industry, doesn't it?
It really does. We are rapidly approaching a horizon where every single company, from the largest enterprise to the smallest startup, will have access to the exact same raw AI models.
The exact same processing power.
And the exact same global talent databases. The technology itself is destined to become a baseline commodity.
Exactly. Your code won't be the differentiator. Everyone will have it.
Because the code won't be the differentiator, the ultimate competitive advantage in the market won't be the technology, it will be the character of the AI.
And the verified, deeply rooted human trust graph that stands behind it.
Which leaves us with a fascinating question to ponder. What happens to the global recruitment industry when an AI character, a slightly grumpy bear in a Navy tracksuit from Cork, manages to build a better, more defensible, and more trustworthy professional reputation than most of the human beings operating in the field?
It's an incredible thought to end on. We started this deep dive talking about the desire for clean, binary engineering-level precision.
How we desperately want our machines to just point to the data and give us a simple answer.
But the architecture of BAIR proves that in the profoundly messy, high-stakes waters of human careers and international enterprise law, precision alone is vastly insufficient.
You need personality to hold attention.
You need unyielding boundaries to ensure safety.
And you need trust to build a legacy.
The generic compliance bot gives you a transaction. BAIR gives you a relationship. And when the dust settles, the relationship is the only asset that truly lasts.